Aloha, it's Jill, the Barefoot Grandma again. And this is actually my second attempt to make this video today, which is going to be on my Native American healing experience, because I just filmed almost the entire video and realized that I had forgotten to put my mic on. So I had introduced you in my last video that I can't post because there would be no sound, to one of my kitties that happened to be sitting in my lap at the time, and he subsequently got tired of that and vacated the premises, so maybe another time. But this is number 6 in a video series that I'm doing that's called I Beat Cancer. And as I mentioned, today's video is on the blessing of the Native American healing that I had on my journey. Just to kind of recap for those of you that may be tuning in for the first time, there are 5 other videos that range from the initial diagnosis, and I think the last one was the importance of support groups. And I'm doing this in a chronological manner, so I'm doing these videos on topics as they kind of happen during my 2-year journey. And I was diagnosed in 1999 with inflammatory breast cancer, stage 3B, triple negative, and only given a 30% or less chance of survival. And the reason I'm doing these videos is because one of my biggest messages, excuse me, that I wanted to get out to people who may be on this journey is to not pay attention to statistics, because that's almost 20 years ago and I'm still very much here. So each segment deals with things that applied to me. I'm not advocating anybody do anything that I did, or to any kind of treatment. This is really just telling my story, and if it helps people find clarity or inspiration along the way, then I've succeeded. And kind of a prelude to the healing that I had. I had the opportunity through invitation of some of my cousins through marriage. My husband has through one of his uncles and aunts. His aunt was Peruvian Indian, and so a line of his cousins are Peruvian Indian, and it was through them that this Native American healing was facilitated. And I was invited by some of my female cousins to attend a sweat, and some of what I'm going to share is a little bit vague, because there's parts of my journey that are a little bit hazy. Part of it is almost 20 years ago, and part of it is just, I was in treatment much of the time, some drugs literally on some of those times, and so there's just kind of some fuzzy logic in there. But I kind of remember the sweat ceremony to be mostly women. I could be wrong. But really intense, so much so that I couldn't do the whole time. I had to leave. I had to come out of the sweat lodge about halfway through. Intense heat and very, very special. Lots of prayers, and might have been cedar that was on the fire. Very impactful in my life, and I really want to thank my cousins for including me or allowing me to participate that, because I do think it was kind of the first door, if you will, to what was to come later with the healing ceremony. But all the women there, the cousins and their relations, were very supportive, and there was no shame in needing to leave. I don't do well with heat in general, and certainly that I was in the middle of treatment, and all of that kind of came to play, and I did it as long as I could, and I know that I benefited from it. But later, I do believe it was my in-laws that maybe facilitated with my cousins to invite one of their relations, a medicine man, to our home And I'm not going to say the medicine man's name. He has since passed, nor am I going to say the name of my cousins in privacy. That's kind of my journey. But what I will say is that kind of give you a bird's eye view, if you will, of how that evening looked. And we were instructed ahead of time to make sure we had some things prepared, one of which was food, because after the ceremony it's very exhausting for the medicine man and his, and I'm sure there's a better word, but my cousin was one of the, my husband's cousin was one of the people that helped the medicine man, and I'm sure there's probably an appropriate term for that, but I'm going to use the word assistant because I don't know better. And then we needed to provide a cast iron frying pan because there would be some burning of tobacco, which is a very sacred plant. One of four that I understand. Sage, cedar, and I think sweetgrass are the other three. And the whole kind of point of the ceremony, in addition or leading to healing, was to find balance and harmony within my body, within my life, in my life's journey, in my soul. And so as a part of that, initially, and this is where there's some holes here. I kind of blend things together a little bit and hopefully come up with the right story. I think there was an opening burning of tobacco. I do remember this beautiful long feather that he used, probably kind of as a smudging activity to begin the ceremony, and prayer. And then a lot of storytelling. He told snippets, which I don't remember much of, but some things stick in my mind, but his own story, and then around the room, and we were told to invite those that, that were integral to our family and to the process. And so as I remember, my in-laws were there, my mom was there, my children were there, my grandchildren obviously hadn't been born yet, some other cousins were there. And so the first part I remember being kind of more directed towards them and sharing of their stories and maybe some prayers and I don't know, maybe what they wanted out of the evening. And might have been some chanting too of some sort. But a lot of inclusivity for those that participated. It wasn't just the healing, the medicine man, and myself. It really was about everybody in the room, so that everybody left with something. And then the attention turned to me, and more prayers, and I know there were some questions maybe that he asked me, and then I'm not sure I have the name right, but I think that what it's called is a sucking cure, and kind of a symbolic sucking of the disease from the body. And in this case it was breast cancer, so that was from my chest level. And more prayers, and then there was closing ceremony, and this took hours. It wasn't just an hour or two. It went on for a long time. And most of us were sitting on the floor, and there were a few on the couch. Everybody was pretty much comfortable in that process, but it was a long time. And then that closed. I'm kind of missing a big point here. Prior to the closing, there was a message, and through the medicine man's spirit guides, perhaps, that's how that came to be. But sadly I don't remember the exact words, but essentially that the cancer was gone. And in that room, some of my family members were in the medical community, and I know there was some challenge there for them that I don't want to say that they took exception per se, but I think they struggled a little bit with that messaging. But then the ceremony did close, and that was time for the medicine man and my cousin to nourish themselves and you know, and afterwards there would be a time of self-healing for him or them. But I actually went to bed at that point. As soon as like almost immediately after the ceremony was over. I don't really, I'm sure I thanked everybody, particularly the healers in the room, and I went to bed and I slept hard. And the evening went on for how long, I don't know. I don't know when everybody left, and I'm not sure I even asked. But I had the opportunity a couple of years later, or maybe it was only a year, again, I don't remember, being 20 years ago, and me getting older, and chemo brain, and the drugs that I were off and on during that time. You might understand why my memory's a little holy. But I'll have to introduce you to another one of my little ferals, because this is a different one. She just happened to crawl up in my lap. She's this itty bitty little thing. This is Itty Bitty Kitty. I don't know if you can see, she's got the shortest little legs in the world. And her and I, this is a side note, Itty Bitty Kitty and I had a rough getting together. She bit the hell out of me for about 3 months. I had so many band-aids and holes. She was a tough win. You can't really see, but she's this little short thing. She's very compact. And but now she trusts me completely, and she lives with a couple of others in and out of my back screened-in porch. And so she's joined the rest of this video. The other one that I tried to introduce before I realized I didn't have my mic on was Tweety Bird. Beautiful cat, but he's got this little tiny voice and he tweets. So there's a few of them around. But anyway, sorry, sidetrack. I had the opportunity a year or two later to attend another healing ceremony by the same medicine man, and I believe my cousin as well. And it was very different, and I was curious about that. Not that I thought it was going to be a cookie cutter presentation. I knew that not to be true, but I was curious how different it would be. And there were a lot of differences, and not so much the format. There was still prayer, there was still inclusivity and storytelling, still tobacco burning, but the questions and the process between the medicine man and the person that was having the healing done on her behalf was different, and it seemed more of a struggle a little bit, that I kind of felt like he wanted her to get to a place, and she wasn't getting there. And I think he tried to help her with that, and it ended differently. The messaging was different at the end. You know, mine, there was some finality to it, that there had been healing that took place, and I remember hers being a little bit more that there was potential for that, but she had work to do. And so, and I am happy to say that she's still with us. So, excuse me, presumably she did the work, and certainly I know that the healing was transformational, a transformational part of it. But, you know, what I would say after all of the journey was over, and there's more videos to come that chronicle that. I do, sweetheart. You know, it certainly did bring balance in my life. It did bring an awareness to health in my life. But I am a human, and I hear this a lot with cancer survivors, is we're good for a while, a lot of us, and then, you know, life is hectic and busy, and then we fall back into old habits, or we find different habits that may not be as healthy. And so there's this ebb and flow, I think. And not for everybody. Sometimes people, through the end of this process, make very definitive changes, and they stick with them the rest of their lives. But I didn't find myself to be that way. And some of that was ended up coming through some depression. I think there's a little bit of survival guilt in there that I've dealt with in my life. And even of late, I've been in this place where I feel like I'm just hitting a wall. I can't, having some challenges, and I'm having a really difficult time pushing through them, or finding my path through them. But interestingly enough, for the preparation of today's video, I actually read about another woman online, another breast cancer survivor, who was doing all the right things. She had the best health care. She ate organically. I think, she was dealing with it spiritually. She was, just everything healthy that you can think of. All right, Fitz. Sorry, hold up a minute. Itty bitty. Come on, I'll put you down, babe. She was doing all of it, and her cancer was progressing, and she was getting, okay, well, I guess she's back again. She's going to stick with me. She wasn't getting better, and so I'm not sure how, I don't know that I remember how she ended up in Arizona to see a healer, but his messaging I found very fortuitous right now, and essentially, he told her that her problem lay with the bad things that she was saying to herself in a constant dialogue, and that was really powerful. It really resonated with me, and I'm really hoping maybe that's going to sit with me over the next days, and I do know that I do that. I think it's a very appropriate and timely message for me right now, because once again, I think it's a little bit of survivor guilt, somehow, which is dumb, because, I was given this gift of life, and I even internally feel like I'm wasting it, because I sometimes don't feel like I'm doing the right thing, or I'm not deserving of anything happy. And so when this medicine man told her that, and I just read that, I was like, oh, wow, I need to do a little prayer on that, because, that's really true for me right now. So anyway, maybe in a couple of weeks I'll have some good outcomes, because I will have drawn something better to myself. But in closing, I know somebody's probably going to ask me, how do I find a medicine man? And I don't have an answer for you. Sad to say that the medicine man that brought this blessing into my life, journeyed into the next world in 2016, and while I think my cousin maybe continued to pursue that and is healing folks in his own way, that's kind of my journey, and I've come to kind of learn that, this part I didn't learn, healers or medicine men or women, it's not like Western medicine. It's, you don't look in the phone book and find your local healer. It's not like a Western doctor or Western clergy. It's not appropriate probably to call up a tribal representative and say, can you put me in touch with your healer? It's my understanding, and I could be wrong, and again, maybe I'll have some cousins that are be able to correct me with this, but it's more of the process. It's more, you're connected through family or acquaintances or community. And so I guess what I would say, and I didn't reach out myself, it was facilitated. And so what I would say is to put that out there, whether that's through prayer or positive thinking, that is what you're feeling you'll need, articulate that in your life, and I guess trust the journey. I don't know, I don't have anything better to offer. I do believe things happen the way they're supposed to, and that's what I hold on to even in this challenging time, that there is a path here. So I'm sorry I can't be more concrete with referrals or references. Well, I hope today's journey, the sharing of this part of my journey, was helpful in some way. I do ask if you are gracious enough, if you like today's video, that you would like it, share it, and really I would be very honored, and it would be very helpful as I make these videos, if you would be willing to subscribe, because it puts me more visible in YouTube's algorithms, and so that would be really helpful. So down here somewhere is that little red button to subscribe, the thumbs up, thumbs down if you liked or did not like, and I hope it was beneficial in some way. With that, I will close with much love from the island of Kauai, the Barefoot Grandma. My name is Jill. If you have any comments, please leave them. I'll definitely respond. If there's any way I can help, I will. I wish you much joy, much health, whatever it is that you need in your life. I hope that you find it. And the next video is going to be on actually the mastectomy part of my journey. So until then, much love and aloha. Bye-bye.